and you're doing so much more, whatever, blah, 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 all the things you tell yourself, which might be true, might be very true. That doesn't lessen your ability to appreciate what they are doing, what is going on. So we are talking about creating peace. This is relevant now because we are in the days of personal refinement. Not that you only can have personal refinement in the weeks between Passover and the holiday of the receiving of the Torah, Shavuot or Shavuos. You can always work on refining yourself. But these weeks are most auspicious. It's like the energy is out there to work on yourself, to refine yourself, to grow. So this is really a good time to look at your character traits and say, what would I like to improve on, and what am I going to do about it? So I thought we could look at this topic of peace in relationships, interpersonally. Now, very often, peace is used in terms of harmony in the home between a husband and wife. And of course, that's a very, very significant arena of peace in relationships. Might be the most important one. But peace impacts all relationships with our mothers or our mother-in-laws, with our siblings, our neighbors, our business dealings, colleagues, acquaintances. With every human in our life, there's some level that we would want peace. We would want there to be harmony in the relationship. We want it to be a positive relationship. We don't want any negativity in the relationship. So I wanted to share, and I don't know if we'll get through all of them today, but I wanted to share 13 Torah techniques that are really all geared in various ways for enhancing peace in all relationships. So you can take it and customize it to where you would like to work. And again, it might be with your neighbors, it might be with your business partners, it might be with your boss, it might be with your child, it might be with your spouse, it might be with your grandmother or parents or in-laws, or all of the above. But in all relationships, we want more peace. And this is definitely a road to redemption, because as we create harmony among ourselves, we're really living redemption, because of course, redemption is the time when there'll be harmony in the whole world. And as we live redemption, we create redemption. All right, first idea I want to focus on is, let's understand the obstacle to peace. And of course, you could say there are many, and it depends on the person, it depends on the relationship, it depends on the dynamics of the relationship, and all that's true. But a very fundamental obstacle to peace is, in essence, ego. I need space. You exist. I don't like you because you lessen my space. Now, of course, it's hard to recognize this in yourself. So it might be easier to see this concept in other people and how they behave. And maybe if you can identify this in others, you can actually look at yourself and see if maybe something is going on along these lines, or maybe not. So if I'm looking at how other people treat me, and of course, if we're talking about enhancing peace, we have to change ourselves, not other people. But I'm just using this as like a ladder, scaffolding upward to working on ourselves. It first helps to understand the dynamics. So looking at how other people treat me, it could be that I feel that some people don't seem to like me, and I don't even know why. I didn't have a chance to do something not nice to them. It's simply my existence bothers them. This could be why. Your existence could lessen someone else's existence. Like a very simple example, sibling, a sister, brother-in-laws. Let's say with a sister or brother-in-law, they don't like you just by virtue of the fact that you now have a hold on their sibling in a deeper way. It lessens their own relationship with their sibling, who happens to be your spouse. With a mother or father-in-law, there could be a very similar pattern, a similar problem. Your relationship with their son, they might feel a little jeopardizing their relationship. A worker, a co-student, your existence threatens them. Neighbors, you usurp their position on the block. Your kids are cuter, your garden is nicer, your car is cooler. It can be all over. Anywhere you look, it's possible that your existence threatens someone else's existence. That your existence makes the other person feel their existence is being jeopardized. Their position, their standing, their space. They feel smaller because of you. Not that you're trying to do anything against them, You're totally not. You might not even be aware of it. You might be completely unaware of it. But your very existence makes them feel less. And that's the root of a lot of negative energy in relationships. So what do you do about it? Here, we're not talking about how you're treating others. We're talking about how others are treating you. So if others are treating you this way, like, what are you supposed to do? It's not your problem, it's their problem. But of course, you want to create harmony in relationships, including with people that feel jeopardized and threatened by you. So what do you do? So one tip is to send what I call love packages, which means literally sending them a feeling of loving them, of caring about them, of wanting good for them, positive energy. This is really very palpable, because if you're thinking about someone else, they feel it. They might not feel it on a conscious level. I don't know if anyone here has had this experience that, like, you were thinking of someone and then randomly you're thinking about someone and then they called you. Anyone ever had that experience?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A few times. Or you called someone and they said, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
mine just happened
that's why I called you.
It just happened to me yesterday, actually.
Happened to you yesterday. Did you make the call or did you receive the call?
I started to call them and the phone rang and it was them.
And that, I'm sure, I mean, it's a very, we've all had those experiences, maybe not yesterday, but I definitely had it. I assume we've all had it as part of the human condition. What does that mean? What does it mean that Dixie yesterday started to call someone, the other person called her? Like, what does that mean? What it means is we really are sensitive to energy. We really feel other people's conscious energy. And when another person is thinking about us, we feel it. Again, we might not be consciously aware, oh, Becca is thinking about me. But we just feel something, we start thinking of Becca. And then Becca calls, and I'm like, wait, did you call because I was thinking about you? Or was I thinking about you because you were calling me? You know, that could be the question. Who did it first? Who initiated that? You know, sometimes is a little murky. But that we were thinking about each other, yeah. That's why somebody picked up the phone and called. Imagine this day and age, didn't WhatsApp, didn't text, didn't email, actually called. My daughter always wants my phone to talk to her friends. I'm like, why can't you just call in the house? And she's like, no, you know, who does that? Like, that's not fun to talk on a phone. You need to talk on a smartphone. So I don't know why, but you know. But imagine you feel someone else's energy and you call, and maybe you felt their energy because they were thinking about you. So that's just part of our situation, and we've all experienced it. Sometimes very dramatically. I can think of like a friend of mine who, it was Friday night, so of course that's the Sabbath, so she couldn't use the phone. And she just woke up in the middle of the night and she said, oh my gosh, my daughter is having a baby right now. Now her daughter was due in a month, but she like had this absolute certainty her daughter was having a baby. It was Friday night. She couldn't do anything about the certainty, and Star doesn't live in town. And Saturday night, lo and behold, she found out her daughter had a baby that Friday night. Well, again, a mother and a child are connected, and she just felt it. Supernatural? No, it's part of our natural experience. We truly are affected by each other's energies. So if you're the recipient of someone feeling something negative, not per se that you did anything, just that you exist, and that your existence makes them feel that theirs is lessened. They just feel less because of you, and you can't say, I'll stop doing this, I'll change this. You're not doing anything. You exist. That's like the problem. But by really focusing on the other person and consciously sending them love, they really feel it. They receive it. They might not understand what's going on, but their feelings for you literally change. I have done this in various situations with people where I felt a negative energy from them. And I've really seen a shift. Now, of course, sometimes these things take a while, and it might not be just a one-time deal. You might have to do this several times. If it's a long-term relationship, it might take many, many, many times, because you might need to undo a lot of negative energy. Might even be animosity. But energy is real, and you're sending love and sending love and sending love consciously to this person, will be received by them, and it will shift. Now, if you're looking at your children and you feel like there seems to be a lot of negative energy between the siblings, you have to really try to ask yourself, is this normal range kids with normal range sibling issues, which usually as they grow up, they grow out of, and they become very close and appreciate each other? Or is this something deeper? Are they upset with each other for real? Is there an animosity in their relationship? And sometimes if there is, what you really need to focus on is the child who's the instigator, because their bucket might, for them, feel very empty. And it might be such a huge bucket, you're not able to fill it enough, but you have to try, because some children just really, really desperately need you in a far greater measure than the rest of your kids need you. And as you fill and fill their limitless, never-ending bucket, hopefully it will lessen the negative feelings they have for their siblings, feeling like you're literally taking my space, you're taking my mom. Because you're around, I get less. So I really don't like you because I want more. So hopefully, as you give more and give more and give more, it will lessen this feeling. Of course, you might say, I don't know who's needy. They're both, added at each other's throats. And that might be true. And you might need to help both. But this is all, again, if you're looking at yourself. Primarily here, we're discussing ourselves as, if you will, the victim, someone else's negative emotion. So there's a lack of peace in the relationship, and you feel it's really coming from them and how they're treating you, and you're fine with them, but this is how they treat you. But if you think about it in terms of other people in your life and how they treat you, it can open up your sensitivity to this. And you could honestly ask yourself, is this how I treat other people? Is this flavoring some of my relationships with others, how I reach out to others? And do I have some bad feelings for people in my life? And is my bad feeling a sense of they take up space, so mine gets less? And to really work on that within yourself, that sense of like, do I feel in danger? Do I feel like I'm not getting enough of? Do I feel if so-and-so was around, I'd have more? And like really trying to unravel all that emotion, which of course, the more you have God in your life, the more you can keep reassuring yourself, all your needs are met. All your needs are met. Whatever you're supposed to get, you're getting. It's not if there were more people in your life or less people in your life, you get anything different, because God is running the show, and whatever your needs are, they are being met. And if you feel your need isn't being met, that's a question to ask God, so to speak. Why is your need not properly met? Not to look at another person and feel it's because of them. God wants to give me more, but you're in the way. Now, obviously, that sounds so foolish. So to really, once you can identify it with other people, how they're treating you, try to take the next step and turn it around and ask yourself, hey, is this how I look at some people? It could be, of course, super subconscious, but is that why I don't like so-and-so? Do I feel they're taking up my space? Do I feel I'm less because of them? And if I do feel that, how do I extricate myself from that mess, from that ego mess? So does this resonate with people? Have people seen this in their lives in either direction? Either how they are treated by others, perhaps how they treat others, perhaps how they see their children interacting? Anyone identify this dynamics of your existence makes the other person feel their existence is jeopardized? their existence is less because your existence, they feel, is more, or just is something. And that something squashes them and forces them to be more constricted. And they don't like that feeling.
Sometimes, yeah, more in the past than I do now. But yeah, sometimes.
That's nice that it's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good if these were, you know, we it's good that we don't have to deal with it. It's past and it's done and it's not now. So that's good. That's great. Anyone else? Anyone else can see this dynamics in their relationships with anyone in either direction, initiated by you or you being the recipient of it?
I have both ways. I've initiated sometimes, and sometimes, most of the time, I get recipient from what I don't even really know. I don't know why the actions are the way they are toward me. And the only thing they'll tell me is, well, you know. I don't know. You didn't tell me. I have no idea why you won't talk to me. I have no idea why you don't want to come see me. I have no idea. But the first remark I get is, well, you know. And I say, well, I don't know. So what is it? But then they don't have an answer. So, it's something I just have to let go because I can't dwell on it. I can't change it. I can't dwell on it. So,
So a lot of times they don't have an answer because what exactly, if it's this dynamic, which is a very foundational dynamic in relationships, what I'm discussing, what exactly the person's supposed to say? Because honestly, in these situations, first they don't like you and then they have to make up an excuse why.
Yeah.
So no, seriously, that's how
Yeah.
it's explained in
I'm
Hasidic
laughing.
philosophy.
I'm laughing. It's because it's my son and daughter-in-law. That's why I'm laughing. They can't, it's hard for them to make an excuse.
Right. That's very sad. That's super sad because that's a super deep relationship that you would want to be good and it's so painful when it's not. But sometimes if it's this type of situation, people can't explain because there really isn't anything to explain.
No.
And what are you supposed to say? I don't know. Your existence bothers me. It's a hard one to say. And I agree with Dixie. Sometimes in relationships, if you feel that's how other people are treating you, and you try to send them these love packages, these care packages of love, which means you really think about them consciously and consciously creating your heart to really feel a really warm, strong feeling of love and consciously send it to them. And I have done this with people and I have really seen people received it. Like I could see, I do this, and then the next time I see them, they're nice and warm to me, and I know they got it. Of course, it could revert afterwards because I might not keep it up, but I've definitely seen and have seen that made a difference. But if you are not doing that, or you did that and you didn't see it made a difference, or you just don't have it inside of yourself to keep doing this, sometimes we do have to give up certain relationships and say, all right, I don't want to let myself get pained over it. I'm just going to have no expectations. No expectations. If something happens, I'm so ready and willing and excited. And if nothing happens, I don't have any expectations. I know God is taking care of me, and maybe this isn't what's meant to be. Becca?
Oh, I was just going to say something you said reminded me of when I was a kid. I had been bullied a few different times in childhood by other kids. And one time I was in 4th grade and this girl was just really acting very like she was angry with me about something, and I had no clue why. And I asked her if she was mad at me, and she said yes. And I said, why? What did I do? And she said, well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. And it's like, I just was like so bewildered, and I was just like, okay. So yeah, it was one of those things that I just kind of had to let it go, that she's doesn't like me and I'm not going to change it, I guess, because she is not willing to tell me.
Yes, you're right. And I'm saying very often in those types of situations, it could be because there's nothing to say, because they don't have a reason. And they have to make up in their own heads a reason. And it sounds so stupid, the reason they're holding in their head, that they feel stupid to say it. So therefore they say something like, well, if you don't know, which ... which is sort of like an implication of like, you're supposed to know, it's so obvious. And you're like, I'm so clueless. Just tell me. There's nothing to say. And like Dixie said, sometimes we just have no expectation in those relationships, and we just don't have the pain because we're just understanding it's the other person and there's not much we can do. And sometimes you can repair the relationships by really consciously sending love. So that was the first idea. And any one of these ideas really you could talk about for an hour, because they all have many, many aspects and really there's so many concepts within them. I'm just sort of highlighting different ideas. Another idea that really is very valuable in terms of adding and enhancing harmony and peace in relationships is a very simple concept, but unfortunately something we definitely need to remember, we can definitely forget, which is don't take for granted the good people do for you, even if they do it many times. Like your mother-in-law or mother always sends you food every Saturday, every Sunday, every Monday. She always sends supper, she always sends cake, she always sends potato salad, she always buys the kids shoes, she always buys you coats, whatever. And she always does it, and she's done it for a long time, months or years. So when someone keeps doing something a lot of times, it's very easy for us to just take it for granted. And it's important for us to remind ourselves it's still special. Imagine how much harder it would be if she didn't send me that food every Monday night for supper, or every Saturday or every Sunday. Imagine if I had to go myself to buy the kids' shoes and pay for it myself and take the time to shop it myself. Imagine if I didn't have this, like, I know whatever, she's going to send a maid before the holidays to clean up or whatever. Because sometimes people do something nice, and the first time they do it, you're so appreciative, and they see you're appreciative, so they keep doing it. And then you sort of just start taking it for granted. It's really important to stop and say, imagine how much harder life will be without these little kindnesses, like your spouse, your husband. Hopefully your husband's doing lots of things. Well, let's say he always takes out the garbage or gives the kids baths or does the shopping. Just because it's his weekly job, just because you do far more, it's still good for you that he does these things, and there'd be even more on your plate if he didn't. So appreciation always helps sweeten inside you the relationship. Appreciation always helps you with your feelings for the other person. So if you're trying to add harmony in the relationship, you're trying to add more pleasantness, more positivity, the more you can really consciously stop and think and appreciate the other person, the more you naturally feel positive towards them, and they feel that. And that really does improve the relationship. And sometimes, I'm saying, especially with family or friends or neighbors or coworkers, there really are things the person's doing for you, but you don't even think about it because they do it all the time, and because whatever, there's, like that's the backdrop, because I'm always supposed to be grateful that my mother-in-law makes lunches for my kids. Like, she does it every day for years. Yeah, it's a beautiful, special thing she's been doing every day for years, and keep focusing on it and keep appreciating it. I'm always supposed to appreciate that my husband drives the kids to school. Yes, if he didn't, you'd have to. Yes, it's worth appreciating every single day. And it
I always appreciated everything Jack did, and I always thanked him for everything. Every time he did something for me, little, I don't care, I always thanked him. And I always thanked him for letting me work with him, because a lot of men won't let their wives work with them.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Because here what Dixie's saying is, first of all, not only should she appreciate it, she thanks. That's another whole level. I didn't even speak about that. And not only that, but the second thing she said is she's appreciating and thanking for something that people wouldn't even think to appreciate and think to thank. Thanking my husband for letting me work with him, meaning I'm out there mowing the lawn with him. I'm out there taking care of the horses with him. I'm working.
That's right.
He's glad for you to be part of his work. He's glad you're on his team. And
yep, he always thanked me for thanking him. So we were a pair.
And that's beautiful. And that adds so much sweetness, peace, harmony to the relationship. And
Yeah.
everyone who does have their spouse should be able to find things they can appreciate more. Then of course they appreciate it, but they don't really think about it because it's just like the given and the dynamics of the relationship. And you're doing so much more, whatever, blah, 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 all the things you tell yourself, which might be true, might be very true. That doesn't lessen your ability to appreciate what they are doing, what is going on. And that's really just helps a lot. And we see this with God because how God set up the system is the more we appreciate his kindnesses, the more he sends them, the more we notice and we thank him. Like Dixie's saying, she made the point to thank her husband for everything of good. The more we thank God for everything of good in our life that he's giving us, even if he gives it to us every single day, the more the good comes, the more it can flow, the more the channels can widen, the more good can. If that's how we're working with God, it's really saying that he wants to train us in appreciation.
Can
It
I
must be
make
a
one
very good
remark?
trait. Sure, Dixie.
We also thank God together for every day when we got up. We prayed together. We also thank God together for our wonderful home, for everything we had. We thanked every day for all he had given us.
And that's really beautiful because you served God together. And that's a very precious thing to know that you serve God together. And this idea, I'm saying that God wants us to appreciate the good he's giving us, really is telling us appreciation is a very good trait to cultivate. Appreciation is a trait God wants us to cultivate. And unfortunately, sometimes it's the opposite. Not only do we not appreciate what people do for us, especially if they do it all the time, but then when sometimes they don't do it, we get all resentful. I had with myself once, a certain one of my children would always Saturday night clean up the kitchen. And he did it. Again, my children usually aren't home, but for a while he was home and it's just his nature. He's a good kid, then he cleans. And since he did it for a few weeks, I stopped appreciating it so much because I sort of took it for granted. And then one week he didn't do it. And I was like resentful. Hey, how come he's not doing his self-appointed job? And it was so funny because instead of appreciating all the times he did, I noticed it when he didn't. And then I was like resentful or upset at him. Of course, I couldn't say anything because it's not really his job. But I still felt this inner resentment and upsetness, like, why didn't he do what I'm now assuming he's going to do, which is clean up for me? So it's something we really have to catch ourselves, because when someone does something, and I guess, on these days when we honor people, if it's mothers or mother-in-laws or grandparents or spouses or children, and it's really a sense of, wait, let's stop and really think. What are they doing for me? Do I properly notice it? Do I focus on it? Do I appreciate it? And as Dixie's saying, do I express that appreciation? And especially if you're having a hard time in a relationship with someone, take the time, take quiet time. Quiet time is very precious. Take quiet time to think of all they do for you. Write it down. If you write it down, it's more concrete, it's more impactful. The longer the list, the better. Don't discriminate. Don't say, oh, that's too small to go on the list. No. Oh, she does it all the time. That's the point. And a person could say, do I care? Let's say your mother or mother-in-law sends you supper every Monday night, and you don't even really like her food, and you don't really need it, and you have no problem putting up the supper yourself. Do I care? Do I need her food? No, don't do that. Don't put all these caveats on the kindnesses. Your kids go to your in-laws every Sunday. Do I need them? She wants them to come. Don't think of it like that. Those thoughts are all coming from negative spaces. Just write it all down. Every act of kindness, write down. And then reread the list and be overwhelmed by the enormity of that love. in all the acts of giving, in all the gifts of kindness. And as you feel that, and as you appreciate that, you will see the stress in the relationship dropping as you change, as you really focus on all the reasons to be so appreciative of this relationship. Very powerful concept. That is a really powerful concept that really shifts relationships. Has anyone seen this in their own life in either direction, in being appreciative and seeing how that changed dynamics in a relationship, or realizing that maybe you're not so appreciative of the good some people are doing for you in your relationship with them?
Yeah, I've seen recently that I really have needed to step up the level of gratitude and appreciation, and just to, throughout my life, I've just taken it for granted that people know, I'm their mother. They know I love them. I'm their wife. I'm his wife. He knows I love him. Obviously, I'm here. I haven't went anywhere, so yeah, I've taken a lot for granted, and it's become more obvious to me recently. I've become more conscious of it, that no, people don't always know. Just because you're there, well, you could be there just because you have nowhere else to go. You could just be there because you're used to being there. They don't know necessarily all the time. They don't always feel it. So yeah, I need to step it up and say more.
Say it, feel it, express it. Absolutely. It really helps, adds a lot of peace and harmony to relationships. Anyone else has seen that with themselves, with relationships with people? Either like Becca saying a lack of the appreciation, or like Dixie saying really expressing that appreciation. Danielle?
I have, and it makes a big difference to focus yourself on gratitude of things that other people are doing. And then also hearing it from other people. There are things you do every day or frequently, like you were saying, for other people. And when you can tell that they're actually grateful and they say thank you and you mean it, makes a big difference just in that relationship and that closeness. And I'll just add that actually my husband taught me a lot about this, because I was not very good at that. And I, for a while, felt like I played the game of like, well, I do 40 things and you do 3 things. And,
I think
so
a lot of women play that game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, he really taught me, like, I noticed like, wow, he's always just seems so grateful for everything that I do, and always verbally says that to me. And so I started like trying to do that back, and it just made a big difference. Like it really does. I think it makes a big difference in relationships for sure.
Yeah. And it's sort of hard because, as Danielle said, first of all, that idea with a spouse, for sure, if you're the woman and he's the man, there's always in your head that sense of 40 to 3. The numbers might be even more exaggerated in your brain than that. But that's definitely a road many women go on. Or, as I said, sometimes we go on the road of minimizing, discounting, not caring about what the other person's doing. She sends me her leftover cake. Well, she likes to make cake. She needs to give it to someone, so she gives it to me. Do I need these calories? I shouldn't get the cake. I shouldn't eat the cake. It's just making me fat anyway. Like, you know what I'm saying? You make this whole litany in your brain. Instead of just saying, wow, that's so nice that she bakes cake and sends it to me, you make all these stories in your brain to discount that kindness. Or it could be a nice thing and you really do enjoy the cake every week, but like you get it every week. So you just sort of take it for granted. And it's like, wait, it didn't come this week. What happened? Where's the cake? And that's when you sort of notice it, when you realize it's not there. Instead of every week I should be grateful. Well, every week she's making the effort of taking the kids or sending the cake, or your neighbor that does carpool for you, or your neighbor that when she goes to the grocery store asks if there's anything she can pick up for you, or like your neighbor that she's going out and you need to go to that place. She says, oh, I'm going. Would you want to come with me? Like, all these little kindnesses in our life. And they might truly be little to us, and it's not a big deal. And I don't even need the help, but it's still, appreciation is a beautiful thing in a relationship. And it really, really adds and enhances the harmony and the peace and the love between people. A third point, I said there's 13. Obviously, I'm not going to get to 13 now, and I've got 5 minutes left. The third point is really appreciating the ideal of peace, of harmony. The sages say that peace is the vessel that contains blessings, meaning it's worth sacrificing for peace. And sometimes we need to sacrifice for peace and harmony. What does sacrifice mean? Like, for example, we have to put our opinion or desire on the side to give space to someone else. And that could be hard, and that could be a big sacrifice. And maybe you're talking to your mother-in-law, you totally disagree with what she's saying, but she wouldn't appreciate if you said that. And you just keep your mouth quiet and nod and smile. And that might be a sacrifice for you. Well, it's worth it. And sometimes your friend is talking and you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's being whatever, so mature, and you just don't say anything. You're just a friend. You just listen. You're just quiet. You just give her space. And it might be hard for you because maybe you really like to express your own opinion, but you're valuing peace. You're valuing the relationship over that. Sometimes we need to remember sacrifice for peace, sacrifice for harmony. It's worth sacrificing for. Now, sometimes it's not a sacrifice. Sometimes you start and you give a little space to the other person, and the other person responds so much. Oh my gosh, this was so worth it. Sometimes it's unbelievable. Now, of course, sometimes not. It just, every person's different. But sometimes you're like, whoa, I was holding back on doing that. Look at the response. Look how much the other person appreciated it. Look how happy she is. Look how I gave her joy. Oh, I'm so glad I did that. And sometimes we have to remember, this is also very hard for some of us, especially for idealistic, strong-minded individuals, as I imagine most Noachides are. Sometimes it's not so important who is right. Peace is more important. Most of the time, in many, many situations, it's not so important who's right. Of course, this comes up all the time in a marriage. We're in a marriage, where there could be conflict, and you could ask yourself, is it really that important? Is it really that important for me to say, no, I really did tell you that so-and-so was coming over for supper. Look, I can show you the text. I can show it to you. I remember I said it because you responded. So you really forgot. I really told you. Is that really so important? You can't just swallow and agree that maybe you forgot to tell him. Whatever the window dressing of the story is, I just made up that one. And sometimes we're like, but that's not true, truth. And it's like, you could put down your flag of truth. This isn't where you have to be waving it. You can create harmony. You can create peace. And in not everything, I'm not saying in everything, obviously in some situations, no, truth has to be waved and stood up for and sacrificed for. But in a lot of the little frictions between people, it's not so important if you're right. It's more important if there's this peace between you and the other person, whoever the other person is. If the neighbor's complaining that your lawn is overgrown, and you're like, hello, I mow my lawn all the time. Yes, I have some weeds that come up, but when was the last time you blah, 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 blah? You don't have to say it. Ideally, you don't think it. If you do think it, though, you don't have to say it. What is a game? And a lot of times in a lot of relationships, you can use that same concept. The relationship is more important than this. The relationship is more important than me showing I'm right, me justifying myself, me vindicating myself, all of which are, of course, ego manifestations. The relationship is more important. Well, I don't care about the relationship with that jerk of a neighbor. But God values peace. Peace is something God wants. Harmony is something God wants. So even if you don't care about that person, but God cares about peace. And the relationship is more important. The peace in the relationship is more important. It doesn't mean because I need that relationship. It's not an important relationship in my life. But God's important in your life. And God values peace. God values harmony between people. So when you really get into the ideal that God really values peace, you can shift in various ways, whatever the ways are, situation specific to your interactions with people, to help create peace. Now, of course, I understand what Dixie said and what Becca was saying, and sometimes, we just have to drop expectations and, wait for other people to shift, obviously. Not every relationship is in our hands to heal, but some are. And for those that are, the more we believe in the virtue and then take the steps to create it, the more we really bring down the blessings, because peace is the vessel that holds God's blessings. So we will stop here. Yes, you can count. We did 3, now 13, but God willing, next week we'll continue. And again, this is a very auspicious time to work on these things, because it's the time of the counting of the haomer. It's the time of inner self-reflection and character improvement. And this is a wonderful way to work on our characters.